So now we have pretty solid understanding about the access modifiers and the methods in Apex. And in this video, we are going to modify our Hello World class to clear the concepts that we have learned in the previous couple of videos. Now, since we know that we can use the access modifiers in front of a class, we are using it here, in front of a method, and in front of a variable as well. So let me make this variable as a private variable. And you know that a private variable or a private method cannot be directly accessed outside this class, right? So let's save this class. And even though if I leave it as blank, this greeting variable is still private because the default access modifier is always private. But it's a good practice to always write your access modifier even if they are private so that it makes your code more readable. So I'll keep it private here. And what I'll do now, I'll just save this class and I'll go back to my developer console. And here, first let's create a instance of the class using the new keyword, which is very, very important because if you do not use the new keyword to initialize this Apex class, then it's not initialized and it will always be null. And if the class itself is null, then you cannot access the properties and methods within that class. So that's why we need a new keyword to initialize our class first, or to allocate the class some heap memory, or to load our class in system memory. Let's quickly do that here. I'm gonna call it maybe first class again. So this statement right here, it initializes our class and put it in the system memory. Now this time, instead of using this public method print greeting, let's try to access this greeting variable directly in a system.debug method. So do you think we can do that? Let's try it out. So first we need our class variable. So let's paste it here. And then we need a dot. And after that, the method name or the property name. So our property name is greeting. So let's copy it and paste it here. And let's execute our code. What do you think should happen? Obviously, we should get an error because this variable right here is a private variable. You cannot directly access it outside this class. But if you access this print greeting method, you can still print the value of this greeting. And let's try that now. And then I'll explain you why. So I'll comment this line and here I'll say get an error for private variable. So this time let's call this print greeting method directly, which prints the value of the greeting variable within a system.debug statement. And since this method doesn't return anything, we cannot use it inside a debug statement, but we can directly call it here. So let's copy our class variable, or the class instance we should call it, and then the method name, which is print greeting. And let's execute our code. And this time it runs fine. We don't see any error, and we should see our hello world message as well. The reason why we are able to print the greeting variable value using this print greeting method and not within this system.debug statement here is because this variable is private, so you cannot directly access it outside this class, but you can access it within this class anywhere. All the private variables are accessible to the methods within that class. So that's why we are able to access the value of this greeting here. And since this method itself is a public method, we are able to call it outside the class as well. And that's what we are doing here. Now let's go back to our Apex class. And this time I'm going to make few more changes. I'm going to have one more property here, and this time I'll make it a public property. Remember, we need to change the name of the variable because you cannot have duplicate variables with the same name. And let's call it public greeting because it has a public access modifier. And here we can call it like my public greeting variable. Awesome. Now let's save this code. You can use this quick save button here, and we didn't get any error. I'll put some comment as well. And now let's go back to our developer console and let's copy this debug statement once again and paste it here. And this time, instead of using this greeting variable, we are going to use this public greeting variable simply with a dot operator. And do you think we should be able to print this public greeting this time? I think we should because we are having a public property this time. It's not a private property and we should be able to access it without the help of a method like print greeting. Let me comment here and click on execute. So this time our code executes fine and we did not get any error and we see our public property value as well in our debug statement. So this is how you can control the accessibility of these variables or methods outside your class. And that's why it's called the abstraction as well. Hiding few things from the outer world so that they cannot directly access these properties or methods and only making few of the methods public which are really necessary and these method within them can access your private properties as well. Now let's explore one more thing here. Our class is a public and our method is also a public. What if I have one more method here? Let me copy it. And this method prints the value of this public greeting. So I'm going to name it as public greeting. And we are going to copy our public greeting variable in the debug statement. So far so good and our code should run fine. But what if I change the access modifier of this public method to global? Will this work? Let's quickly save this class and see if we get an error or not. We do get an error, and the reason being our class is public but our method is global. And as I said in my previous video, your properties or your method can only have more restrictive access modifier or equals to your class modifier. Your access modifier in these properties or method cannot be less restrictive than your class. So here our class has a public access modifier, but in our method, we are using a less restrictive access modifier, which is global, and global opens up everything. So you won't be able to save your class. But as soon as you change the access modifier of your class as well, then you should be able to save it. Let's click on this quick save button and we are able to save our class. So this was the second thing. Let me revert few changes here. I want to keep my class public and here I'll simply write a comment get an error about access modifiers and I'll comment this code as well. The reason why I'm doing it so that when you look at this code, you can remember why we have written this code and what kind of error we get from this code. And maybe like when you try to execute this code in your org as well, then you can explore all these different things.